Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the sophomores podcast, Teacher Talks, where you can get to know more about your teachers. I'm Lily Boo, and together with our co-host Sarah Sun, we interviewed Señor Friedman, a Spanish teacher here at Great Neck South High.
Hello, Señor Friedman. So thank you for agreeing to do this interview for the Southerner for a podcast. So we have a few questions for you today. So firstly, could you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, so as you said, I am Señor Friedman. First name Señor, that is my legal first name. I am a Spanish world language teacher here, currently for Spanish, but I am working on getting French certification as well. A pipe dream would be also to do Chinese, but I think that's pretty far out there. I've been teaching here, might be dipping into some future questions, for 5 years. This is my 5th now. I am a former student of Great Neck South, which, I know some of the inner secrets and trade secrets and what goes on in the fallout shelter, whatever that actually is. Yeah.
So why did you decide to be a language teacher?
That is a great question. In hindsight, or in retrospect rather, looking back at my childhood, I liked buying expo markers, like those multi-packs of, just everything from lime green and the useless yellow color that just is lurid and hurts people's eyes, to the darker browns, black, whatever, like those 16 packs. I didn't realize that was going to eventually manifest in a career and something that would actually be substantial and help me survive. But I used to like writing on whiteboards and making up equations. Interestingly enough, math stuff, which was never my strongest subject, probably why I was overcompensating in the realm of imagination. But I excelled in Spanish, which was my sole redeeming quality as a student. So it made a lot of sense to become one. I grew up with a caretaker who was from Uruguay, and so it really became part of my identity as a kid to be bilingual and speak Spanish. And it was, it was more, I felt like it set me apart from others, and that I wasn't just a mere language learner. I was, part of at least somewhat, not immersed in the culture if that's an overstatement, but more in touch or in contact directly with the Spanish language experience, if that makes sense.
That's really cool. So outside of teaching, do you run any clubs at the school?
I oversee the academic team, which is its official name, although we call it Quiz Bowl, just because that's really how it's known colloquially. Quiz Bowl is, for anyone who's interested, please join. It's a fascinating experience, a very in-depth questions of literature, science, math, a category they call trash, which includes sports and pop culture, all the stuff I like. And it's sort of like a Jeopardy-style trivia show, but we compete with schools all over the island and some out of or off-campus competitions as well.
So why did you decide to start the club, or what do you particularly like about Quiz Ball?
So the club, I didn't really start. I can't take credit for it. It's been going on. It's like a well-known thing throughout the island. And I consider myself a gatherer of knowledge, be it, individual, inert, unrelatable facts about esoteric mythologies, or maybe more useful, pressing matters of obtaining concern, irrespective of that, or notwithstanding. Just felt right to be part of something where people are conceptually or wholeheartedly to knowledge and understanding and knowing how things are, or knowing why things are, or even just knowing what things are, which I guess some knowledge is unidimensional or singularly faceted like that. Yeah.
So going off of your picture as the great sage, or this big collection of knowledge, so what are some of your interests? For example, humanities, as you mentioned?
Yeah, so humanities is really it might be a college kind of created term, but I definitely was always more of a wordsmith than a numbers guy. Interested in letters and languages more than Sudoku. It's like religion, myth, literature, I guess just themes in philosophy, ethics, sociology and interactivity of humans and whatnot. Those subjects pertaining to that, political philosophy, whatever, were always of interest to me.
So outside of school or academics, what passions or hobbies do you have?
First, probably guitar playing, I guess. Music in general, I used to play more like bass guitar. My brother had a drum set that he never ended up using, although he did fight me once for using it and breaking it, granted, in his defense. Music definitely speaks to me first. I love swimming, and I swam for the team here as a student, and just since then I've continued to do that. Learn, read stories in multiple languages like Chinese, Italian, Portuguese, and much to the dismay and chagrin of a lot of my students, I'm trying to also pick up Russian. They'll hear me throw random phrases like I eat apples and cookies just senselessly at them throughout the day. But bombardment aside, I think language is one of the more important things in my life. Animals, I would really love to work with animals. If I'm not rambling here, there's sort of an innate paradox of, loving animals, but then not being able to be something like a veterinarian because you can't see them suffer, right? Or like a breeder who would have to give them away. Which I could own a farm with 1,000 of them.
So for music, you mentioned that you play guitar and stuff like that. Do you make your own music? Do you rap and stuff like that?
Yeah. So despite, I guess, how silly it sounds, yeah, I do like writing raps and songs to instrumentals. Not going to do any here, obviously.
We're going to ask that.
I do like writing my own songs. I used to be in a band. In middle school, a couple of my friends opened a book to 2 random pages and picked the first 2 words that they found to name their band, and it was Sufficient Treatment, which actually made sense.
So I think personally, and a lot of other students in your classes find that your bombardment of vocabulary and your love for all these different random pieces of knowledge are very invigorating. So how do you find that all your hobbies for rap and poetry connect to your position as a language teacher and your love for reading Wikipedia and gathering all these pieces of knowledge? How are they all connected, and how have they contributed to your life?
Yeah, that's a wild question. I mean, it would be like belonging to a congregation whose priest didn't believe in the faith or something, right? If you had someone trying to lead your team that just was hollow in terms of their commitment to the mission. So not that I'm any grand savior or anything of people, but I think it is important that, I do have a open mind and a creative mind that I think, or I hope to impart or at least shed onto people, however liberally and wildly and intractably. So if students, can find some element of respite for or a place for their open expression and a place to take risks and, dabble with whatever and be a dilettante in new arts, then that would be super cool if that were my influence or legacy on people, that, I opened some sort of channel for them. That's a cool question, because I think it is necessary that someone doing something believe in the thing, which sounds like a tautological truism that, you'd take for granted, but I think oftentimes, you have people who are in positions who aren't into it, right? And you have people kind of plodding by and doing perfunctory, mindless stuff. And yeah, I think it matters to me that that students take interest in education or knowledge at least, right? And bettering themselves. And if I gave up on that, then, everyone else would follow.
So we know that you've, taught here for 5 years and you actually went to Grand South High. So what is your best memory from South High as a teacher or as a student?
As a student, I can definitely say it was winning county championships for the swim team twice before I left. And then actually our dynasty, as my friends across the pond would say, continued for 2 other years after I left. That was cool because when we won at Eisenhower Park, where LIAC is, they played We Are the Champions by Queen as I, through teary, lacrimose eyes, jumped into the pool with all my friends and just had a blast. So that was a nice moment. I felt really like the pinnacle, peaked in high school, but whatever. Then as a teacher, it's tough to say. Honestly, there are a lot of feel-good moments from the students, like Cultural Heritage Night or the plays, going to see those in person and really seeing there's something about performance that emerges. There's sort of an epiphenomenon that comes out of not togetherness, but a connectivity with the world or the society, the community, the universe, however deep you want to go there. That comes out when, a play is really copacetic and actors are working in harmony and concordance with each other, whether it's music and, jazz band, or even the teacher talent show, when you find, someone like Mr. Hopkins that can sing Oasis better than anybody else. There are those like feel-good moments, and I think that a lot of it is the small stuff that passes and maybe you forget because they all blur into each other.
That's very nice. I've heard from a lot of teachers that I've interviewed that South High is a very welcoming and supportive place. It's like a whole community or family here. And straying away from the sentimental side of things. So what are some of the funny moments that you've experienced here? Or because you mentioned that you went to South High in the past, are there any teachers here that people still may know that you have opinions about?
Well, it's funny because I had Mr. Madden. No, I had Mr. Madden for ninth grade social. I guess I'm happy he doesn't remember this as well as I do. I maybe mentioned this, but there was a time where I was in the back of the class, probably distracted at the time, and sorry, Mr. Madden. And he asked what a synonym for benevolence was, like kindness or doing good to others. And I misheard him saying Netherlands instead of benevolence. So I, from the back, in my distracted, abrupt, curt, brusque shouted Holland, thinking that was related to the Netherlands when it had nothing to do with benevolence. Although I'm sure people in Holland are plenty nice and do good. But that was the most embarrassing moment of my high school career, which I'm thankful for him for overriding with, I'm sure, better and more important pressing memories. Thank you, Mr. Madden. I still use Mr. Co notes for things, or I did in college when I was, making outlines for stuff. So, you kids who are grunting now and having to do that, it really does help.
I mean, it must be really cool to enter the school as a teacher and then seeing your former teacher and becoming a part of them as a former student. That must be really, really cool.
Yeah, the weirdest thing was to stop calling them Mr. or something all the time. They'd be like, "Hey, please call me Don." I was like, "All right, Mr. Don, you got it." So yeah, but it is cool, and it's an honor and a privilege to be on the other side and see how things work.
So what's the best thing about working as a teacher?
I would say those moments, whether they're often or few and far between or every now and then, where something in the eyes of your students scintillates and you get a sense of them connecting with what you're saying, and if it's something that isn't merely content but something you believe in, maybe filtered or percolated through what you're teaching, and your students just relate to it and by proxy relate to you, or by extension, I guess the proxy would be the content, but yeah, relating to your students through the content you're teaching. Yeah, I had this realization a while back that a lot of math teachers, Spanish teachers, social teachers, right? Yeah, we teach our content, and there are a lot of, it's important to know a lot of that stuff, but there are these life lessons we kind of smuggle in, all the late nights staying up. Do you have to study the Pythagorean theorem or quadratic formula or what was it, or orthocenters of triangles, which I just learned the other day. No, it may not be those specific instantiations of content, right? Knowledge that you have to master. But the discipline, the collaboration with your friends and whatnot, and classmates, the learning new things and trying new things, all of those life lessons that I said we smuggle in, kind of unspokenly or implicitly. I think those add up to the most important thing about being in school.
I like how you always put a sentimental spin on all of your answers. It's really nice because it really reflects your character, and I think it really adds to your position as a language teacher, and also all of your hobbies, all of your interests, all the knowledge in the world. So do you have any final words of wisdom, any unmet comments that are still dying to roll off the tip of your tongue?
I could leave you with two quotations I like that I don't always live up to, but have been something to consider. Joseph Campbell has a quote that's the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Hero's journey. Right, it's on the hero's journey.
Okay, I actually don't know. I'm a fraud and a dilettante, but and then Fernando Pessoa, I think he's Portuguese. not Brazilian, but he has a quote, trago comigo as feridas de todas as batalhas que evitei, which is, I carry with me, or I bear with me all the scars from battles I avoided. And it's sort of like you always regret, doing the things you didn't do as opposed to the things you do, or did do. Those two things, I think, help me try to confront, fear and self-doubt. Yeah, so I'll leave you with those two quotations, I guess. And thanks, honestly, for this. Probably therapeutic and rewarding for me to hear me say these things too, so
thank you so much. Those are great quotes, and I love the motivational ending we have to this. So that's all for our interview today. Thank you so much, Señor Friedman, for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is awesome, and I hope you can get to a bunch of teachers in due time.
This podcast is brought to you by The Southerner, Great Neck South High's newspaper. It is hosted by Sarah Sun and Lily Wu, directed by Amelia Liao, and edited by Janice Lee.